Hey, how's it going, everyone? It is Drago. We're back with another chapter of Deadrock, Chapter 3, Classroom Massacre. Pretty simple cover page for this chapter. You just got 3 of our main characters on it. It is very much a simple cover because there's not even a background to it. It's just a white backdrop. But I quite like it, especially since it ties into events that happened in last chapter, because kind of these were the main 3 focused on, and even within this chapter that's kind of a main focus as well. The chapter opens very interestingly to me because you get the human world, which, people have mentioned in the past 2 chapters, but we've never really seen. And it has them praying to their gods. Then the god from the demon realm shows up and he just wrecks face, basically. Very interesting because you get kind of subtly setting up God's goal in this whole thing, because he mentions, like, at one point a god that he killed at one point. So potentially he's targeting people that could potentially challenge him. Which then you cut over to Deadrock and Class F, and they're in one of their classes and they're learning about poisonous plants, which Yakuto really wants to know, could you kill God with this? Which, I mean, the teacher kind of takes it as like a joke, because he's like, oh, you couldn't kill God with just poison. And I just imagine it's like the SpongeBob meme with like him with binoculars and like Patrick next to him saying like, write that down, which indirectly this is also foreshadowing stuff later in this chapter. So with the class over, they kind of have banter between each other, which I really like their banter. And one of the things I was wondering about with last chapter, with Mikoto kind of reviving one of their classmates, he's dead, but he's alive, so does he decompose? What happens here? And also explains why he has the weird band-aid thing on his forehead. Turns out that is a cooling talisman to keep his body cool, so it prevents it from rotting. So quite literally, if he didn't have that thing on him, he would start to look practically like a zombie. But would he still be like his normal self then? So he could be like a skeleton man and still walking around talking like normal? I love that Yakuto really wants to take it off. And they even acknowledge, since he's just a corpse right now, he's practically immortal. Which you get Mikoto clarifying that, because she's like, well, no, I'm controlling him, but if I die, he'll die too. Which I like her going up to him, so it's like, you better protect me then. And they get rudely interrupted by other students in this school. And it turns out that these students in particular were some of the students that were fellow classmates of the 2 people that got killed off last chapter. And they're here to make them pay for it, which I love that Yakuto just immediately is like, okay, that guy did it. And then he just books it out of there. This is immediately different from Mashima's other male protagonists, just because if this was Natsu or Shiki, they'd be staying around here because they really want to fight. Really hasn't had the inclining to fight, because he pretty much is booking it when he has to, But it's because Yakuto really has ulterior motives here, which we find out later in the chapter what he's actually doing. Which I really enjoyed the rest of the class fighting this class, because you get to showcase, some of their abilities and stuff. Well, I mean, you don't get any per se named abilities, but you get pretty much everyone having a little moment to shine, which they were doing pretty good until you get the main guy here summoning these poisonous plants, hence why it got foreshadowed before. And he makes this smoke of poison, which everyone else is just trying to cover their mouth so they don't breathe it in, so they don't die. Which I love that Mikoto is like, hey, Ryzen, can you suck it all up for us? He's like, why would I do that? And she's like, well, you're not gonna die, it can't kill you. And he's like, oh. And then he literally turns into Loxus during Tartaros, starts breathing in all of this poison. Which, yeah, that poison cloud 100% reminded me of that ether nano mist from Tartaros. Mikoto didn't really take it very nice that you messed with her little puppet, because she gets a kind of a scary Urza look, and she's like, well, I'd like to thank you properly. So we cut over to a chapel, and that's where Yakuto ran off to. Just a side note here, this chapel is awesome foreshadowing for the eventual person that like runs this area, because you see like all the beds and stuff and like love. It makes very much sense when you like know who runs this area. So Yakuto has this little eyeball, and he starts to look into it, and he is looking into the top level staff meeting at Deadrock, looking through the eyes of Maxwell, which kind of interesting that they're already having a meeting about Class F. This very much is giving off like the parallels of like the Magic Council at the beginning of Fairy Tail, like complaining about Fairy Tail all the time. And this is where you get the introduction of the 4 demon teachers, which some of them I like, some of them are meh right now, but you just really only get their like names and you don't really get entirely what they do. The first one has a root of Kraken, and his name is Boltogard. And the one that was running the chapel, which Yakuto is currently in right now, being Lilith, and her root is Succubus. If you think about like Succubus and what she actually does there, like I'm not sure she should be doing that with the students, you know what I'm saying? The next demon teacher, I'm going to guess his name is Luzin, and the root is Mephisto, which I honestly just thought that Mephisto was only something that Marvel created, so that's kind of interesting there, because at least in like Marvel, he's like the devil practically, which he very much has the personality of Natsu, like really wanting to duel everyone. And the final of the 4 demon teachers, that being Vice Principal Bren, and his root is Giant. He very much looks like during the Arashio Stacy, you had like the Naked Mummy Guild. Like there's one of the head monkey looking guys. He looks pretty much exactly like this guy. I like that they're talking about like killing students and stuff, and they're like, well, Class F only like really killed the 2 people, but you know, we can probably go easy on them this year. I like that they're like, well, it's not like they massacred a whole class, and then it cuts to a panel of them literally massacring a whole class. I absolutely love this panel. It's a bummer you don't get like Yakuto in there with them, but it's such a cool panel with them standing over the bodies of the ones that they defeated. And they conveniently left the guy that tried to poison all of them. Mikoto is a absolute savage, because she brings back all of this guy's fellow classmates and has them start attacking him, which she is freaking brutal that she did that. That is a very much not a regular Mashima thing that, you know, he would do. And we go back to the high level Deadrock meeting, and God makes his appearance, which Yakuto, seeing him for that split second, actually you get a little flashback of potentially why he hates him. It gives me like Gray vibes of like his whole town slaughtered. You don't really get too many details, you just get the kid version of Yakuto, all bloody and looking scarred for life. God immediately starts walking over to Maxwell, and he immediately knows that Maxwell's eyes have been tainted, and he pokes out Maxwell's eyes, which, you know, kicks out Yakuto. And kind of the shock from that makes him get bumped out of the, you know, place that he was sitting in. And I don't know if like him losing the connection there made his like arm get poisoned. And immediately outside of the little stall that he was sitting is this little cat girl, which I don't remember if she had a name. I do recognize her. She was from last chapter, and she's like, oh, we don't have much time, so like we gotta figure you out. And that is the end of our chapter. So my thoughts. Again, I really like the building that he is doing in this new series. I like the class itself. They're having some fun antics. I like that he's actually kind of explaining stuff with like the corpse manipulation that Mikoto does. And I like that Mashima's actually been doing some very decent foreshadowing in these chapters already. Like particularly in this chapter, he foreshadowed quite a few things. In each chapter as we've gone along here, he's been making Yakuto a very interesting protagonist. He's very different from the regular Mashima main male protagonist. And also some of Class F itself has been very interesting because they're kind of very different from his regular, you know, side characters. And honestly has had some of them be freaking savage, aka Mikoto reviving all the dead comrades of this dude just to attack him with his own, you know, friends. So if they were willing to overlook Class F killing just a couple of people, what the flip are they going to do to them now that they killed basically a whole class? And potentially God knows that they're spying on them now. So what are your guys' thoughts of this chapter? Leave it in the comments below. I'm sorry that it took a little bit longer to get this chapter out. The past few days I've been feeling not so great, so I haven't been able to record anything. And I've been just really busy with other things going on in my life. And then additionally, I do have the Heroes review recorded. I have at least the audio portion of it edited. And now I'm just editing the regular video, so the Heroes review should be coming up shortly. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and this is Drago signing out.